Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome back to NALO's Thrift Talk. If you're watching us live, thank you so much for tuning in on a slightly different day. I have some plans later today, so I will be busy tomorrow, and it just worked out well to do this a day early. So I'm so glad to see some of you already in the chat, and I hope a few more people will tune in as well. Today we have sort of a part two of our one of our past episodes. Nay, you want to introduce our topic?
Yeah, so we're going to be talking. We talked about 10 mid-century or mid-century modern BOLOs, which is items to be on the lookout for while you're thrifting or going to estate sales, garage sales, etc. So we talked about those 10 items. We did a two-part show, which was hopefully you all enjoyed. Go back and watch it if you didn't see it. And we decided along the way we had a lot of fashion items that we were looking at, but that doesn't really, we were doing a show about decor. So we decided to bring you 10 fashion BOLOs. And these are basically, some of them are very specific. You might learn some new brands, and some of them are a little more, wide open, but they are, even the ones that aren't as specific, we have, hopefully, you'll find some great tips from us. So. Mm-hmm. And we have our usual segments. So our first one is, what thrifted items are Nay and Lola wearing? Lola, what are you wearing today? I recognize that dress.
Yeah, I am wearing one of my favorite vintage dresses. So this is a Hawaiian dress, definitely mid-century based on sort of the label and the style. It just like fits me like a glove. It's just one of those things that you find it and you're like, oh, this was definitely meant for me. I did notice when I put it on this morning, though, that the zipper is coming undone a little bit. So I will need to do some mending on that. But otherwise, it's in great shape. It did have a little bit of discoloration. I think I've talked about this before at the hem. So it was an easy decision not to list it and sell it because I think it would be hard to fully disclose the discoloration, but it's really only noticeable if you're looking very close up. So I don't have any problems wearing it, but a little bit too imperfect to sell. So it is one of my favorite dresses, and I found it years ago now. I don't even remember how long. I remember wearing it on my birthday like 2 or 3 years ago. So it's been in my wardrobe for a while.
Very cool. Yeah. I was with you when you bought that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were definitely together. I don't remember which store it was at, though.
It was at the store in Camden.
Camden, I think so. Yeah, it was one of the bigger thrift stores in the Philly area.
It was one of the. It was at the time. It was Value Thrift or Village Thrift or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right.
Mm-hmm. And I am wearing a dress that is totally mid-century.
Love it. I love the floral.
Yeah, so it is. It's definitely something that I'm keeping. One of my favorite color combos has always been pink and green together. So, and when I found this, I have another dress in this brand. I'll show you the tag in a minute because I have a picture of it. But I have another dress in the same brand, and I absolutely love this brand. It's hard to find. It is mid-century. This is 60s, very 60s. Mm-hmm. I think it's later 60s, but still definitely 60s. So it definitely fits into that mid-century genre. And then behind me on my mannequin, if you can see, that is a Vested Gentress dress.
Love it.
Print. And you'll see why I'm showing that as we go through our items. And then I also have up there another, that's a mid-century, I would say late 60s, maybe early 70s. So kind of pushing it for mid-century, but still mid-century. Bark cloth. Hawaiian dress. So I'll show you those tags. Let me pull them up here. So this one is the dress that I'm wearing. Can you pull the? Oh, sure. Sorry, yeah. Okay, so this is the dress that I'm wearing right now. So the brand is Amelia Borghese. This dress, the tag is like half coming out and all. I should really sew it down, but I have another dress in the same brand that I love, and I love them because they have these bold patterns. The two that I have fit me well. This one didn't for a while, but now that I've dropped so much weight. It's fitting me perfect again. So, but I love the brand. So it is hard to find. They do tend to sell very well. They have good resale value, but whenever I find a dress in this brand, I've only found 2 so far in the wild. I have to keep them. And both of them happen to have been my size. So, and then this is the tag from the Hawaiian dress. I don't know the brand. It's McConnell, Hawaii. So that's and you can see the texture on the cotton that is definitely bark cloth.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
and that's actually great if anyone isn't familiar with what bark cloth looks like. Great example of it up close. So kind of remember that texture if you're looking for it in the wild.
Yes. And I will show you when we, in a little bit, I'll show you the tag from the Vested Gentress dress as well. So our next segment is our thrifted home decor items. So I'm getting all tongue-tied. What do you have, Lola, this week?
Okay, so actually I have a really cool item, but I wanted to do a little bit more research on it before I shared it. So I'm going to hold off and share it next week, if that's okay with you. It might be more of a
sure,
thrifted history.
Sure. Well, I have 2 items this week.
Okay.
Have found midi-sized equivalent Vested Gentress and never extra small or larger size. Yeah, well, you know what? And it's funny, and maybe because of the region that I'm in here, we'll talk about that because Vested Gentress is a regional thing. We'll talk about that in a minute. So I have found larger sizes, oddly. However, the sizing that I have found is off. Like the dress behind me is a size 16, but I would say it fits more like a 10 or a 12. It's not size accurate. So you do have to know when you're going with vintage sizing that it's not always accurate. So
well, and I think you're right though that the size on the Vested Gentress dresses doesn't necessarily match with what you'd expect from that era.
Yes.
So it's not it's not what we're used to now, but it's also not quite the same as other vintage dresses from that time period.
Yes. Yeah. Good explanation. So I have 2 things here. If I don't break this, it'll be wonderful. Okay. But so this is, I have a mid-century giraffe.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute. Wait, sorry, Nay. I'm gonna put you up on the big screen. Okay. There we go.
All right, so I have a mid-century giraffe. I have a giraffe for every occasion, like you said, and this is my mid-century giraffe.
He's got a little bow tie. It's adorable.
He is super fragile. He does not have any markings. He's heavily crazed. His leg actually has a glue. He's been glued back together at some point. And I did drop him once, and my dad glued on his other leg for me. So that's like my dad's handiwork here. So actually, as sad as it is that he broke, it's like my dad's little mark.
Extra special, yeah.
So he's imperfect, not something I'll ever sell, but that is my mid-century giraffe. And at a local thrift store a couple weeks ago, I got this water bottle for $1, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, that's kind of, and I'm doing a lot of jogging/walking, and it's been hot, so I carry a water bottle. This has been my favorite water bottle. I paid $1 for it.
Love that.
The brand is Life Factory, and here is their website.
Hold up.
Yeah. So here's their website. They're all about the idea is eco-friendly. It's still a removable silicone sleeve that they fit in. They are all glass. They do not make any plastic, anything except for the silicone sleeve and the tops, which are supposedly recycled. But they are, I love it because I love the glass. I actually like it better than the plastic. It is heavier, but it's also sturdier. And they also make baby bottles. This company makes, they make some cooking ware and stuff. So, and then they also make stainless steel sports bottles. So they have a good thing going, and I love their water bottles. It's very sturdy, and it's become my go-to bottle. So that so that $1 find at the thrift store turned into something that, I might even go on their website and buy another one now because they're not that expensive. They're, around $20 a piece. So really not.
Well, they look like easier to clean than most others? Like, could you take it apart and then throw the glass part in the dishwasher?
Yep, throw the glass in the dishwasher, and obviously the glass is 100% recyclable. They also make baby bottles, and some of their bottles, from what I'm reading, are convertible. So if you have a baby bottle, you can turn it into a sports bottle later. So that
is cool.
Yeah.
We are not sponsored by them.
No, we are not, and I don't know much about, like the inner workings of the company or anything, but I just happened to stumble upon them, and it's just become my favorite water bottle.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And our next segment is our famous poop emoji segment. So I do have one entry for this week. When I was doing some research for our 10 items, yes, that is true. And I know Jason is actually in Disneyland right now. So he's literally, he's not, so he's not in the chat, but I know he'd be chuckling about that. So when I was doing my research, I came across this. So Trifari, if you're not familiar, just mostly a costume jewelry company. And this was a Lucite mid-century jelly brooch, sterling, that went for $1,150. Wow. So you never know with the vintage costume jewelry, the mid-century costume jewelry, and is one thing that we're going to be talking more about. So I was just shocked that it went for this much, and it was legit. I actually looked into their feedback, and that's basically what they sell. This seller sells mid-century costume jewelry, and I was shocked at some of the other items. This got feedback, so it was a legit sale. Some of the other items, sold in the hundreds. So you never know what so look for, at estate sales, garage sales, thrift stores. Look at the jewelry, because I nearly fell over when I saw the price that went for.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And then we have some housekeeping. So next week, yay, we got to 1,000 subscribers. I think we're now at like 1030. So yeah, so thank you to all of you who have subscribed. And if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because we love our subscribers, and you will get notifications when we do videos. Sometimes we do extra videos and whatnot. So this is going to be next Friday, the 3rd, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. I think we're going to be doing a throwback, highlighting some of the tips from our best shows. If you guys have any ideas or want to share anything, please let us know. And I do know that we're going to be offering some prizes. Actually, a friend of ours, Craig and Rick from Two Dogs Digs, he just messaged me today, Lola, and said that he wants to help us out with some prizes. So
that is so sweet.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah.
I'm so excited.
So thank you so much to Craig and Rick. So I think so if you watch next week, we'll figure out how we're gonna be doing that. But definitely join us for our 1K celebration show. And this is our channel analytics, if it comes up. It's never well, anyway, I think we have about 10:30. So in 2 weeks, which will be the 3rd, the 10th, I think, we're going to be doing a show. So one of our viewers, Lori Brockmeyer, had an idea, and we love our viewer suggestions. So she was wondering if we could do a show all about viewer duds, or not duds as in, it's a horrible item, but duds as in it's an item that needs a little help to sell. It's been sitting for a while. And so we're asking for your live listings of items that have maybe need a little help to get sold. And what we want to do is do a live, not necessarily a critique, but suggestions, helpful suggestions to maybe get your item sold. So if you don't mind your listing being shown, we will be kind, I promise. Please email us your dud listing links to nalothrifts@gmail.com. And get into our main topic. So our first one on the list is Vested Gentress. So can you pull up the banner? Thanks. So Vested Gentress and that's the dress that's behind me. So, first of all, you know what? We should first of all talk about why mid-century fashion too. I just wanted to. So
we touched on it a little bit before, but when we were brainstorming our MCM show, we kept coming up with ideas for things we wanted to share that were more fashion oriented. And all of these bolos are items that we've had luck finding, that we have had luck selling. So they're definitely out there. They're not impossible to find, even the more specific ones. And they're not necessarily going to be, $1,000, costume jewelry, brooches, but they're, solid sellers. And we also just have sort of a love for them. So they're just items that make us happy. And, we always love to share things that we enjoy. But it's also a style that I think just is in the public consciousness a lot. There always seems to be a TV show. So like first there was Mad Men, now there's Miss Maisel, like different shows that are highlighting some of this fashion. So even if it's not the trendy, super trendy, like Y2K 90s styles, there's still some of that interest in some of these fashion brands or looks. And it, as we sort of mentioned this when we're talking about our definition of MCM is not on those MCM episodes, not super strict. So again, our definition here of mid-century is a little broad. Loosely, it refers to, at least for us, it's referring to anything that's like post-World War II, so like 1945 to the end of the 60s. But some of these items there's examples that exist that are older. There are some that are younger than mid-century, and they're also worth looking for, even without like outside the bounds of that time period.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that's great. Yeah.
So that's sort of how we chose, and we had a hard time picking only 10. I'll have to say.
Exactly. So
there are a lot of things that we had to cut because we just wanted to stick to 10.
Yeah. So Vested Gentress, it was started in 1961. So, so what it is, so it mostly dresses and skirts, but very whimsical prints. Like you can see some of the prints, you can see the dress behind me with the frogs on it. It often animals, mostly dresses and skirts, but there are other apparel to look out for as well. I've seen aprons, I've seen the occasional shirt or scarf. So there are other items. It's just the dresses and the skirts are more plentiful. So they're similar in the color palette as as whimsical as Lily Pulitzer, but usually there's less of an overall print and a greater emphasis on cartoon-like characters. So there's also fabric. I have seen some fabric. I've sold some fabric. I talked about that in another episode. So, it's like cartoonish characters. Sometimes the screen printed characters are embellished with bows and other details. So it was founded in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, which is kind of in our neck of the woods. It's a Philadelphia. In 1961 by Bud and Naomi Jackson. It first started as Vested Gentry, but eventually switched to focus on women's clothing, and it became the Vested Gentress. So Lola, you said you've had your best luck finding Vested Gentress in Philly and Pittsburgh, but yeah, it can be found anywhere. That dress that I found behind me, I did find at Philly 8th Thrift in Philadelphia. So
yeah, I also found a couple in New York, but it seems like their stores were mostly in the like mid-Atlantic, New Jersey, Pennsylvania area, and then in Florida, which makes sense because it has that sort of tropical vibe that, it appeals to the same audience, I think, that would love Lily Pulitzer, and Lily Pulitzer is big in Florida. But it does, like, you can see some of these examples here, like much more cartoonish, less of that like busy overall print, even though the print, like the characters can cover the whole fabric, it isn't as intricate and detailed as the Lily Pulitzer prints.
So the company was active from 1961 to 1985. So some of the newer items are not actually mid-century, but even the 70s and 80s pieces have that same mid-century vibe. So the dress behind me is actually early 80s. That is not mid-century. But if you were to see a dress from the 60s, it would have the same exact look and feel to it. So that they didn't really, the style stayed very mid-century and classic, even though not all the pieces are technically mid-century. So They so here's how to tell the labels. So the mid-century, so the early labels that are actually from the 60s did not have care tags, an RN number, and the lady in the logo on the dress does not have a crop in the hand. So I will show you what I'm talking about. So here is one of the original labels from the 60s. You will see there's no care tag. There is a fiber content tag, but you'll see that. So this lady here, she's not carrying, is not holding anything. She's not holding a crop. And they actually kind of slenderize the lady on the label after the 60s, which is kind of funny. So she was a little thicker before then. So this is an early one. You can see this is a label from the 70s. Now you'll see she's a little thinner, and she's also got that crop in her hand. And there's an RN number now too. So the RN number is another tip off. Now this is another line that was called the Wee Gentress. That was a children's line. That was kind of like an offshoot. But here is the label from my dress. So that dress again is a size 16, but it runs smaller. And you will see that now this dress would be probably early 80s, guessing because of the label. It does have the machine wash care tag and the fiber content. And the earlier dresses, most of them were 100% cotton. They added the poly in later. So you can tell the difference there, but they still have that classic look to the tag. Yeah. But this is another, yeah. So you can see the difference.
And these links are all in the description on this video. So these are a couple blog posts that I've gone to back to over and over again throughout the years to double check some of this when I've found Vested Gentress or been looking at, maybe buying one on Etsy or something. So they're really good resources, and they do have those, good images of the tags and stuff, and a good variety of examples. Some of these are a little bit more common than others, like the dog, especially the horses, I think are like a little bit more, I wouldn't say popular. They appear on different dresses and skirts more often. And then sometimes you'll find one that's a little bit more unusual, but I wouldn't say that there's, a better or worse example to find, because there are collectors who are seeking these in their size or a different color, or they're looking for that one unusual example of a Vested Gentress print. So, I have a really hard time passing them up. I have passed them up a few times when I find them in like vintage stores and they're already marked up. But even then it's, I don't know, it always feels very special to me when I come across these.
Yeah.
And they're some of my favorite.
This one is this is one from the 60s. Mm-hmm. This, they're asking on Etsy $68, which is right in line. I would think if I sold that dress behind me, I could get probably at least $140, $150 for it. Mm-hmm. That's probably, about the going rate for
it. I did. I one of my big regrets was selling the first Vested Gentress dress I ever found, and it had whales all over it, and it fit me really well. And then I gained weight after college, so I sold it, and I think I sold it for like $150, which was good money for me right outside, right when I was out of college. But I wish I sold the dress instead.
Yeah. And I that this one sold, they took a best offer. They were asking $198. So, I might get a little more than one, but that's about the average price. I mean, that's a good solid. This one sold for $150. I don't know why they put the first, because, it would look like fabric, but that was the first picture. They didn't have the best pictures for this, for sure, but they still sold the dress for $150. So, and this was one of the older labels on that. So,
And a good tip for these dresses, a lot of the fabric, the base of the screen print will be white. They do really well just soaking in OxiClean. If they're slightly discolored, you can get them looking like new.
Good point, yeah. And this one sold for $70. That's a skirt. And we have, so I did find one pair of pants. I was looking for an alternate. These are a little bit older. These are 70s, but, so technically not mid-century, but still, look for pants, look for tops, look for scarves, aprons. There are other, like I said, and the little girls' dresses. I have not ever come across one of them, but they do exist. So keep your eye out. Our next item is Lucite bags. So this is a blog that talks about, it's called Bagaholic. I think they also authenticate. Yeah. So they also do authenticate, but this has a great Lucite bag segment in it. So if you want to learn more about them, definitely check out this blog. And it also has some brands to look for. So Charles Kahn, these brands will all, if you find a brand, one of these brands, it will sell very well. Dorset Racks, Llewellyn. I have a Llewellyn comp to show that went for crazy money. So anytime you find a Llewellyn bag, and they don't have to be in perfect condition. Of course, the better condition is going to bring you a higher sale. But even if they have some flaws, people do restore them, people collect them. So, just make sure you're clear with the flaws. Rialto. These are all brands to look for. So this is a great, this is in the description too. So definitely check this out, because Enid Collins, I'm sure you've all heard of Enid Collins, but those are some Bolo brands. And it also tells you about the style and the silhouette and what to look for the Lucite bag. So Lucite itself is, I'm trying to find it was created in 1931 by the American chemical company DuPont, which, so it's highly durable, and it's an acrylic material made from polymethyl methyl acrylate, or PMMA. So that it's basically durable plastic in layman's terms. So it's boxy, it's structured. A lot of them are clear. And the difference between Lucite and Bakelite, we'll show you a link in a minute, but there's
ways you can test.
Yes. So there's ways that you can test them. So, and I think we'll talk about that in a minute. But so this one sold for somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,500. This is the Llewellyn bag that I was talking about. Insane. And a lot of them are boxy. They're very structured. Here's a clear one that sold for $279.95. And a lot of these that, this one doesn't even have a brand on it. So some of them, the brand does not matter. It's more of, the style. And, and they have, you can tell how strong the plastic is, because they have, a lot of these bags they're still in decent condition after all this time, So this is a Bakelite. I don't know if they've tested this, because it says Bakelite Lucite. I don't know if it's both or either or, but it sold for $223.
It could be a combo of the two different colors. Maybe one is one, one's the other.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, because I think most sellers who would sell these items will test, and will use in the description, will say tested Bakelite, tested not Bakelite.
Yes. And then this is awesome, like the detailing on that. It's just, and that's, so that's totally 50s. That's they're asking $95.99. I think they could probably even ask more for that, but that's what that seller's asking. And this one is, I think they're underselling this one too. They're asking $30. Of course, it's not like one of the bigger structured bags, but it's still really pretty, So there are evening bags to look for too, like the bags and whatnot. So. And then our next item is, our next item is Pendleton. So Pendleton, so you're looking for, with Pendleton, you're looking for shirts, skirts, and 49er jackets. Can you bring up the banner for that? Shirts, skirts, and 49er jackets. So, so 49er jackets, they still do make them, but you're looking for the vintage ones, and they do have a very distinct look. So they have the pockets, the two pockets on the bottom. They are jackets. They're more of like a heavy plaid flannel kind of shirt. They do make them in men's and women's, and they still make Pendleton today. So, and there's Pendleton skirts, there's Pendleton sweaters, there's jackets, there's everything. So anything Pendleton, of course, is going to sell. But the mid-century items, and especially those 49er jackets, are definitely what you are looking for.
Yeah. And I thought it was really fun to browse through that. The link that you just had up is sort of the Pendleton blog. It is connected to their official website,
Yeah.
but it doesn't seem like it's like supported or promoted on their website. But if you browse through it, they have a ton of history on the company and tons of history on the, you know, designs through the years, and ads, you know, showing the details of those styles. So it was really interesting to browse through that. And then I thought that this was so funny. Oh yeah, very good tip. Why are they called 49ers? I think because they're meant to look like the gold rush kind of rugged look, but the 49ers were made for women, right? That was a woman's style.
Yeah, they were, but there are men's jackets as well.
Okay. Yeah. And the
at least I believe there's men's. I know they're being marketed as men's jackets. So
right. One of the reasons why they became big in mid-century is because the Beach Boys were famous for wearing them, and the Beach Boys were originally called the Pendletons.
That's so funny.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, crazy trivia there. Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't have really thought of flannel as being like a surfer kind of look, but I mean, this photo obviously worked for them. So.
Yep, and this was during a 1962 shoot for the debut album Surfin' Safari. So those, if you could grab their jackets from that picture, they'd be worth quite a bit.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then the Vintage Fashion Guild, we always refer to that. So there is a nice write-up about Pendleton. It gives you the history, and it says most notable was their 49er jacket, hip length, long sleeve casual jacket with a wide collar, patch pockets, and large shell buttons down the front. The 49er is still made by Pendleton today. And here's a great label resource. We definitely recommend that for dating Pendleton. And, you know, you can tell very easily a newer label versus an older label or a mid-century. They also do blankets too. That's another side note. But.
Obviously, a huge bolo if you find a Pendleton blanket.
Oh yeah, that's
so the 49er was introduced in 1949. So that was part of the name. But I do think it was also meant to reference
I think so too. Yeah, the style.
The workwear, yeah.
So here this is just a wool, they call it a board shirt, interestingly enough, see, with the
surfer. So the surfer, yeah.
So, and they didn't have great pictures, but it still sold for $99. So yeah, so so this is considered a board shirt. And here's a 49er jacket. This is a 50s 49er jacket and skirt set that they're asking $95 for. I don't know. I think I'd ask for more, but you know.
Yeah, that seems low for the matching set together, and it looks like it's in good shape.
I think they're underselling a little, but you know. So that's the tag. You can see that that's definitely vintage. But yeah, so that's an amazing set there. And here is another example of a 50s 49er jacket. They seem to be, it seems like they actually sell for more on eBay than Etsy.
Interesting. So that's a rare instance where that would be the case.
For my research. Because usually vintage you would think would do better on Etsy. But of course, it is harder to see solds on Etsy. I'm mostly going by like what people are asking, but it looks like, you know, the asking and the sold prices on eBay seem to be trending higher than on Etsy, interestingly enough. But I would definitely ask for more than this if I had this too. This is a 49er jacket. This is gorgeous. I mean, look at those shell buttons. And so the
neckline's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. So absolutely. Our next item is, sorry, it keeps going back to my question by default there. Our next item is jewelry. So,
again, talking about Lucite and Bakelite.
Yeah. So Lola, you found this post.
Yeah. So I don't have like a single go-to source for how to test different types of plastic. but I know that if you Google it, there's always going to be several collectors blogs that will walk you through it. This one, I read through a few of them, and this one seemed to be sort of the most comprehensive. So that's why I picked this one to link to. So the link is in our video description, and it has, several different ways to tell the difference. The one that I always go to is using 409, which it specifically has to be 409. It's one of the chemicals in that cleaner. You just put a little bit on a cotton swab and gently brush against the item in a, not super obvious place, just in case, and it will turn color pretty obviously if it's Bakelite.
Yeah, it'll have like yellowish tinge to it.
Yeah, it turns kind of bright yellow, orange. So, but if you have an item and you're trying to just to figure out what it is a pretty easy thing to Google and find a website that will walk you through it and give you a few options that you probably already have at least one of these items at home that you can use to test. So
yeah, much easier than a fabric burn test. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, at least you don't have to burn
anything on fire.
Not burn the plastic. That is not a good tip.
Oh, good. Thank you, Jess. I didn't know this. It has to be older 409. They changed the formula. Okay. So wow. The one ancient bottle of 409 I've had for 10 years now. It's still working.
So maybe look for 409 in the thrift store too.
Maybe, yeah.
Sales or something. Yeah, that's interesting. So here are some examples of what mid-century jewelry is selling and what it's selling for. So this is just Lucite. This is and a lot of them are like big statement pieces. Not all of them though. So this is definitely a statement necklace, but this is Lucite, and it sold for somewhere in the neighborhood of $135. So a lot of this is costume jewelry. Some of it is not, but a lot of it is. Now this is crazy. Barbara Anton is a name that you should look for. You never know what you're going to find. It's not every day that you're going to find a $3,111.88 brooch though. But someone did, and they sold it for that. And so this is also, 25 karat gold, or 18 karat gold, 25 karat emerald. I mean, that's a little crazy. But you'll see the word brutalist in there. And a lot of the mid-century jewelry, some of the words that you can use to describe them are modernist or brutalist. A lot of abstract. A lot of, when we were talking about our mid-century modern decor, the jewelry kind of carries over to that. It's, statement pieces, kind of abstract, very, you can see that how it kind of carries over to the jewelry. And so here's another one that a few sold here. So this was, okay, so this is, you can see again, very abstract. This is again, 14 karat gold, and this sold for $600 though. Not everything is, there's going to be a lot of costume jewelry, but some of the costume jewelry can do very well too. Like this sold for, this is Danish. Again, we talked about the Danish furniture in our mid-century modern episode. So when we were talking about the decor, so Danish mid-century, a modern, this is just sterling silver and amber necklace that sold for $119.50. So you can definitely see the theme carrying over to the jewelry. This is Trifari, which was that crazy brooch that I showed. This set, and Trifari is definitely a brand to look for. This sold somewhere in the neighborhood of $80. That's just costume jewelry, but that's not bad. Here's another one. I love this necklace actually. This is Renoir, California. It's copper. Renoir is another. Really pretty. Yeah, so that only sold for $32. But hey, if you find it for like $1 at the thrift store or something, that's not bad. And then talking about Bakelite, here's a set of Bakelite bangle bracelets that sold for $70. So
it's a beautiful color. I don't think I've seen one that's that bright green.
It's really pretty, yeah. So definitely. And then the next one is, sorry, let me get, hold on. Mail order patterns.
Yeah, so this is one example of an item that is not only going to be from mid-century, but there are plenty that are, from 40s, 50s, 60s, and those generally the ones I find the most often They're also not going to be super high, value individually, but they're very easy to find in quantity. You might find them at an estate sale, or I've found nice lots of them on like Shop Goodwill, places like that. And I just really enjoy collecting them and finding them because they are, they feel a little bit more of like a thing gone by. The big name pattern companies like Butterick and Simplicity and McConnell's, like those all still exist, but a lot of these we don't really do things by mail anymore. So when you find them, they often have the original envelope. They'll have the name of the person who bought them on the envelope, so there's sort of just like a story to them, and they really often epitomize that look that home sewers were trying to emulate from fashion magazines. So sort of like Vogue does today and did at the time also, they'll often have collaborated with big name designers who will do a design for the mail order pattern companies. And so this blog post is really helpful. It kind of gives you a good overview of different details to look for that can help you date the pattern. So this link is in the description. But a few examples of the patterns that you're looking for.
Yeah, I have a Marion Martin pattern, which is interesting. And it's got like the sender, and it's like one of those things I should list, but it's like so historic. It's got this historical kind of almost sentimental feel that I haven't let it go yet.
I have a beautiful pattern that actually overlaps with another item on our list today that it's my size, and so I want to keep it and make it eventually. But so these are good examples. You can see the styles of the dresses and the way that they're very simple and branding, because they didn't really need to be branded the way that you'd need something to be branded in a store, because you're ordering it over in the mail, and you would order it through newspapers or magazines, but they also did have catalogs. So I did talk about, I think as a sold item I shared on a past episode, where I listed a catalog for one of these mail order companies and sold that for like $12. So if you're finding a lot of, a woman who over decades had been saving her mail order patterns and then passed away, and her estate sale has, a big collection, there might be some of those other pieces of ephemera that are of interest to collectors and to people who are looking for inspiration from, this time period. So,
yep.
So all of that's worth picking up and listing. Love this.
Yeah, that is
cool jacket.
Yep, definitely. And some of them were not printed too, right? Or were they all printed by that point? Because I know some of the earlier patterns weren't printed.
I'm not sure specifically about the mail order patterns, but I recently did come across a Vogue pattern that was much later than I would have expected and was pre-cut. It was not printed. It was pre-cut. So generally you want to make sure and specify on your pattern listings if they are cut or uncut, and uncut is generally more sought after, but don't let it trick you. If it is a pre-cut pattern that was the way it was sold, that could be a mint brand new pattern that was never used. So just, look carefully and even if it's a little bit later, if it's from the 60s or so, it could be a pre-cut pattern.
So our next one is, our next item is going to be, so cosmetics and cosmetic related items. Thanks. Yeah, cosmetics, cases, and compacts. So, so with the cosmetics, I mean, you might think, there's kind of an ick factor, but not really for collectors, because even if there is some makeup in there, don't remove it. Don't just leave it. Like if there's some old powder, because you're not selling it, it's okay at that point. We know it's expired. We know it's old. collectors are not buying it for the makeup that's there. They're buying it for the collectible factor most of the time and not actually to use. So, so here's some examples. So this is Futurama is one of the BOLOs for, it was an older Revlon mid-century lipstick called Futurama. So look for that. And they came in these pretty boxes and gorgeous lipstick cases. So the cases themselves, even if they're empty and they don't have lipstick in them, or if they do, it doesn't matter. They are collectible. So, yeah, so they're really pretty too. So that sold for $45. Here's another one that this is just the lipstick case itself with a flip mirror, so you can see it was something like that. So lipstick cases aren't really a thing anymore, but back then they were pretty big. So this one sold for $49. And you can see, I mean, it's not in perfect condition. So a compact and lipstick case, which was, they have it dated 1948. It was Paul Flatto. And you can see like the inside there, you can see it's not like, looks like there's some residue in there. It's not in the perfect condition, but still really pretty, and sold for $95. So
yeah, and some of these specific colors will be iconic or will have a relationship to a celebrity or someone famous. I remember a couple years ago, I went to the Frida Kahlo exhibit at the Brooklyn Museum, and in one of the display cases, they actually had her like signature Revlon lipstick and what's it called? And nail polish. And so out of curiosity, I Googled it to see how much those, other examples of that nail polish would be on eBay. And they were quite expensive, more so even than these comps, because someone savvy knew that was her color. And so, it's worth trying to do a little bit of a search and see if the color if you come across something, if that color has an extra cultural significance, because, then you have another group of collectors who would be looking for it.
Good point. Yeah. So this is really pretty. So this is a little makeup case. You can see like it's got a little spot for lipsticks, for a compact in there. And it has, they sold it as a set. It was just an empty perfume bottle with a compact and a lipstick case, it looks like. So, and they're only asking, see, I'd be asking for more than that. They're only asking for $24.99. I'd be asking for more if it was mine. But again, some people do understand. And this is an example of, so it's a 1950s, like this would be considered new old stock. So you can see the powder's still in there, but you know what? Someone's going to buy that either for the collectible factor, or it's going to be like a set designer is going to purchase it. So if you ever find these gems, at estate sales or whatnot, don't be afraid to buy old cosmetics like that. And then here is one. You can see that this is pretty, the puff is pretty well used, but they're asking for $50 for that one. And yeah, so. And then this one only it only sold for $10, but even, this was just an empty tube of Estee Lauder lipstick. And obviously somebody bought it for the collectability factor for the coin on the tube. So, and then we have, these are gorgeous. These are mid-century makeup. It's a makeup jar set. These were pretty popular back then. And they're so pretty. And it's something that, people buy still to this day to put, you can keep cotton balls and other items in your bathroom in it. Really pretty set. So that they're asking for $32 for that one. So our next item is coats.
And this is actually the item that I have a mail order pattern for.
Oh,
so it's a little bit beyond my skill level right now, but I'm hoping at some point I will be able to make my own coat. So a swing coat is a mid-century style that generally a little bit of variation in what you'll find labeled as a swing coat. Some of them will be a little bit more gathered at the waist, but usually those start sort of their narrowest point is at the chest, and then they flare outward from there. And they do come in a wide variety of different fabrics. So, you will find them in camel or cashmere or tweed, a lot of wool, boiled wool. Sometimes you will find them more in like an evening gown coat. So more of a satin. I really liked this Pinterest board that I found just because it had a really nice variety of different examples, and a combination of vintage photos of, women wearing swing coats from like the 50s, and then some that were current listings of vintage coats today. So again, this link is in the description. I find coats along these lines all the time, every year, usually around fall, winter. If a thrift store has been sort of hoarding their coats for when it starts to get colder and they put out a lot, they tend to be overlooked because often the first coats to go are the newer coats. And I will say that there are a lot of coats that you'll find with issues. In my experience, I have definitely purchased some that have some dry rot in the thread, or will have loose buttons. So you really do have to look carefully at them, and then also decide how much work you're willing to put into them. But a beautiful example of these coats can go for, quite a bit of money. So
I love that color. I love green. So
isn't that beautiful? This one is not a sold. It's just I came across it on and had to share. It's so pretty.
I want it. If I only had $348, I
right
could just frivolously spend. That is, I would. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's gorgeous. Yeah, and then you have some other examples here too. And that's a beautiful.
So this one's more of like an evening. It may at one point have had a matching gown to go with it, and it's been separated, but you could totally see wearing this out to like a wedding or an opera. And just really beautiful at the bow.
Very pretty. I love the red. And then this one is. There we go.
And then this one's a little bit more subdued. This is more, to be honest, more along the lines of the majority of the coats that I have found are a little bit more utilitarian. They're not as eye-catching, but still like beautiful details, a button. And a nice cream coat, winter white coat is just such a great staple. There's one similar coat to this that I wore for a couple winters. Just I kept it for myself.
That's pretty. That looks so warm. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. It would be like wearing a blanket.
Yeah, more like a teddy bear coat. So you can see it's sort of a style that has a wide variety of iterations of what they can look like. And then this is one, I believe this is a sold, that I noticed a few of these overall leopard print swing coats seem to be doing quite well on eBay when I was looking through eBay solds. So definitely look out for anything that's, leopard print, never goes out of style. This was also a nice size, so not surprised that it went for a good chunk of money.
Yeah. And then our next item is vintage lingerie. So, I always talk about, we always talk about the Vintage Fashion Guild. So not only do they have a tag label resource, but they also have a lingerie guide. And in this is all of different, about bra sizing, about what different items are. So you might not know what a bustle is, but you might discover what you have by looking here. And they have, definition of a chemise, a teddy. And this will really help you with keywords if you have some vintage lingerie to list. Mm. This is a great, great resource. So.
And so not all of, obviously this isn't just mid-century. This is all lingerie.
Vintage. Well, yeah, lingerie guy, but Vintage Fashion Guild is deal with vintage fashion. So not necessarily all mid-century, but vintage. Yeah. And so definitely. So we're talking about slips, peignoir, sads, robes, nightgowns, lingerie like bras and panties. Even like you can sell now. You can't sell used panties on eBay, but you can sell vintage. I mean, getting into a little gray area here. You can sell them if they are vintage and considered, collectible. So, at your own discretion there, but
use your best judgment.
Yeah, if you find a set and it's got the panties in it, it is okay to sell it if it's vintage. So, and some of them, are new old stock too, and by all means, that's fine. So, but some of the brands that you're looking for are Vanity Fair, Munsingwear, Lily, Miss Elaine. So those, and some of these the vintage pieces are beautiful. And you were saying, Lola, that some of them provide enough coverage that they can actually be worn as dresses today. So
yeah. So I had so this is not quite mid-century, but I had a 70s nightgown for a while that I wore as a dress because you could not tell the difference. It was, it was long, it was not sheer, it was floral, and I got so many compliments on it. It was one of my favorite dresses. But you definitely have found, something like this where if you're super daring and maybe you wear a slip under it and then belt it or something like that, like you could totally get away with wearing this outside the house.
Yeah. So this is a set. So you'll see these often, back in the day, they often did come in sets. Sometimes you'll just find one piece in the set, and that's fine too if you don't have a set. But if you can find a whole set, see now it's considered a peignoir set. So it's a peignoir nightgown set. So you can see the overlay. It's kind of like a robe, a nightgown, and then underneath it's got that it's got the sleeveless, the kind of silky nightgown. So that's a set. And so if you look on Etsy for 50s or 60s lingerie, I would recommend doing that, and you'll get a good idea of what to look for. So lots of great. Etsy is a great resource. You're not necessarily going to sell it on Etsy. You can sell it on any platform, but Etsy is a great resource for vintage lingerie. If you're going to sell it, that's great, but just for researching as well. And so this is a 50s. This is a gorgeous, I love this nightgown. It's like so pretty.
It's so pretty.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some really pretty lingerie, and some of it even you can, if it's a lot of them are light colored, you can soak them in oxy and they will come out well. So if you see some stains or some flaws, like some yellowing or discoloration from time, that will come out. I was looking. These are all searches. Vassarette is another brand to look for. And also slips, half slips. Here's a Vassarette Munsingwear slip. And you can see it has the old school punch tag on it. So that's new old stock. I have a bunch of Vanity Fair slips that are, I think they're 70s, so not quite mid-century, but I need to get those listed. A lot of them are new old stock. Here's Vanity Fair. And Vanity Fair is still in business today. They still make lingerie. I think the quality back then was better, but make slips and whatnot. I remember when I was like a teenager going to the Vanity Fair outlet with my mom. Like they had a big outlet in Reading, Pennsylvania. So, that was not meant to be there. So here's a Munsingwear. And something like this, like I could totally see somebody wearing this as a dress, like with a jacket over it,
Oh yeah. I had like a really similar black like slip dress that I used to wear all the time in college.
Yep.
Just be like my quick throw something on to go out for the evening kind of dress.
Yeah, this one they had on a model, but you can see like, you get the idea though. Gorgeous. There's some really, really pretty details, the lace and so. And our next one is Vintage Pantyhose. So this is a resource that I found. It is a vintage stocking guide. It's from a blog. It's called flashbacksummer.com. I just happened to kind of Google and find it, but they have some great information on vintage pantyhose. There's information about fitting and sizing, and denier and gauge, which is like the weight of so yeah, and some interesting like ads, and so I would recommend to look at that. You're looking for new old stock. Some sell better in lots. I usually lot by size, but not all do. And, like people that are buying it for the collectability factor are not necessarily buying it for the size. Larger sizes are always good. There is a market for, it's not necessarily just a female thing. There's a market for men buying pantyhose as well. So in larger sizes, I have sold to men. Note that if the packaging is damaged or ripped, stockings. So there is a difference between pantyhose and stockings. So stockings traditionally are thigh high, and they are worn. They stretch the upper thigh, and then they're secured with suspenders and a garter belt, which also sell. So, and back then, that was kind of like mid-century was kind of the transition between pantyhose, which go full, which are full toe to waist, and sheer to between that, and then the older styles, which were like the thigh highs with suspenders and a garter belt and the clips. So you will still see some of the vintage mid-century stockings, and some of them you sold a set, I think, Lola, that had the clips and everything, didn't you? I remember.
Yeah. So it's actually funny because earlier in the chat, Elisa is no longer in the chat. She had to run, but she was mentioning the Junior League store in Ardmore, which is a store I used to go to all the time, and that's where I found those. And they sat for a while. I just listed them super high, best offer, and eventually I forget exactly what it was, but it was a pretty decent offer. I was very happy with it. So
yeah. So
it was because of you that I picked them up, because you had mentioned it to me. So,
and I remember when you saw it was a gorgeous set, yeah, and it came in a beautiful box. I remember seeing.
Yeah, and it had this like the beautiful back seam on the back of the leg. They were gorgeous.
So if you just do a search on Etsy for mid-century pantyhose, that was the search I did, you will get a good idea of what to look for. This one on the right here, these fishnets, I actually have a pair in that same package. Really crazy. I have to get those listed. I have so much laying around that's not listed. But yeah, you'll get an idea of what to look for. And these are, a lot of them you will find in the thrifts. You'll see them bundled together. You'll see them in bags. They're out there. The vintage pantyhose are definitely out there. And of course, estate sales. Here's some sold. So this is a lot of 5 boxes that sold for $59.99.
Oh, that's a good tip, Jess. She says that she uses the private setting on her vintage stocking listings. That's a good idea, because it's not going to keep anyone from buying it, but it might make someone more willing to buy it. So
yeah, and I think especially too, if you have larger sizes, that might be a good thing too. Like I said, I've sold pantyhose to men, no judgment, and that's fine, So this is a vintage with tag stockings and suspenders garter belt. So here's an example of a garter belt that it's like a stocking accessory that sold for $50. So look for those as well. And then here's an example of a new old stock, just the garter belt clips. Back in the 50s, that sold for 35 cents. Now it's selling for $20. So yeah, so you can, if you find those, you might find them like in the baggy section on the wall or whatever. You never know. So here's a lot of vintage stockings or these are actually pantyhose, I believe, but they sold for $36.99. And here's another one. This was just one pair that sold for $21.16. So you can get these so inexpensively, when you're searching secondhand. So definitely look for vintage pantyhose. And then our last but not least item is Back McConnell. So
this is a new one for me. I'm excited to learn about this.
Yeah, so I came across that at Goodwill I grabbed these up because I knew what they were. I'd heard about Jock McConnell, and I happened to walk into the Goodwill Philly one day, and somebody had just donated a bunch of vintage hats, and there were a couple of Jack McConnells in there, and I almost fell over. So I did sell them. I sold them long enough ago that it was years ago that I don't have like my comps or my pictures. One was a gorgeous butterfly hat that I sold for over $300. The other one was it was an off-white hat. I know it had some rhinestones. It had some damage to it. I still sold that one for over $200. I mean, these hats hold their value. The pink one I had was a red feather hat. Now there is a difference, and I'll tell you in a minute what. So here, if you just do a search on Pinterest for Jack McConnell, you'll get an idea of the styles. A lot of them have feathers. A lot of them very, very gaudy, very, like not quite church lady hats, but you get the idea. They're
very distinctive.
Yes. So here is a resource for Jack McConnell hats. This shows the history of the hats, and I believe this link is in the description too. So if there's a label with a red feather, meaning if there is a red feather attached to the inside tag, which is one of the hats that I had, it is a custom or one-of-a-kind hat, and those go for more. So look for the red feather hats. Yes, look for the red feather inside of the label. So I think there's a picture. I think there's a picture here of the red feather in the label. If there isn't, I have one of the sold has an example of the tag. So, but you get an idea of some of the styles here. Just beautiful, beautiful hats. So definitely keep your eye out for these though, because if you find one, a lot of the vintage hats, they'll sell. They don't all sell for, but Jack McConnell specifically always will sell for a lot. Even if you don't have a red feather or a one-of-a-kind one or custom one, they will all sell. So here are some. There's an Etsy search. Again, you'll see.
Oh, that gold one's amazing,
isn't it? Yeah, and this is a boutique. That's a boutique. So there's a boutique label. There's a style, but there's a couple lines, but they'll all have a Jack McConnell tag in them, and they all sell well. Especially, again, the red feather is what you're looking for. So this was this is the red feather. Here's the label that you're looking for. See the subtle, like the red feather. It's literally a red feather behind the tag. So on the inside, there will be a red feather attached to the tag. And if you see that in one of the Jack McConnell hats, that is a bonus, because that means that it was custom or one of a kind. So
and then definitely add that in your title.
Oh yeah. Like when I had the red feather, I was like, red, yeah, add the red feather in your title for sure. So here is this one sold for $310. This was a red feather label too, and I'm sure they have a picture, upside down picture of the feather there. I don't know why I'm choking. This one sold for, this is all rhinestone. Wow. Yep. And I don't think that this was even a red feather hat. Oh yes, it was. Okay. They did not put that in the title. And you can see the Woolmark logo in there too. I don't know why. Now they should have put that in there, but they still sold it for $17.55, and that was because it was, all the rhinestones that are in there. You can see there the red feather. This is gorgeous, though. I mean, look at that intricacy there. So yeah, $17.55. I mean.
So I actually meant to mention this when we were talking about Pendleton, but the Woolmark was introduced in 1964, I believe. So it can help also, the presence of the Woolmark can help you date it.
Good point. The hats that I had did not have that, and the one was actually wool, but it didn't have a Woolmark label, so it was probably older. I have those pictures somewhere, like, on an old disc somewhere. I wish I could have dug them out because they were beautiful hats. So this one that one sold for $260, and that was, looks like that might have been a red feather too, but this one sold for $80. So, some of them aren't going to sell for as much, but this is not a red feather. So this is not one of the one of the kinds. See, you can see there's the different tag. It says boutique on it.
Mm.
There. So that's a little different. So yeah, so you get the idea. So definitely look for those hats. And that's our 10 items. And I'm going to go into our breaking news. Here we go. Okay, so we have a couple of news items for you today. The first of them is well, okay, here it is. So Depop, we got an email from Depop. So basically they added some features to the desktop version of Depop. So looks like you can see your live listings in one place and edit them from several devices. Use the shop stats summary to gain important insights and boost your sales. Create multiple draft listings in one go and post them at an optimal time. So
yeah, so that's exciting. Those sound like features I would use. So that's great.
Yeah, so they added a few features. And then this is interesting. This article is from the Wall Street Journal. So Urban Outfitters is actually going to be launching their own secondhand app that's going to be kind of akin to Poshmark. They apparently feel that Poshmark is competition, and they are going to be dipping into the secondhand market, and it's going to be the same kind of thing where anyone can sell on it. It's called it's called Newly Thrift, Nuuly Thrift. And they're going to be launching the iPhone app this fall with a the company stand to collect commissions on resales where they risk cannibalizing sales of new merchandise. So it says our job is to grow, said the president of Newly. From a thrift standpoint, we know that if we don't provide the platform, it's not going to keep sellers from selling on other platforms. These secondhand experiences are happening whether we're playing into them or not. So wow, that's interesting. Yeah,
I'm super excited to try out the platform, and I think we'll have to do like a little rundown of, compare and contrast between it and Poshmark, and kind of give our feedback on it.
Yeah, so this is coming this fall. It doesn't say specifically when it's going to launch, but the fall is right around the corner. So look for that. It's called Nuuly. So new selling platform owned by Urban Outfitters. Very interesting. And it's interesting how a lot of these big companies are getting into the secondhand market. They see that it's there, it's an opportunity, it's trending, and they want a piece of it. In our market report, I do have a few sales this week. Lola was on vacation, so
yeah, I need to get my butt back in gear and start listing. But
so this guy was from a Goodwill Blue Box. The whole box was $20 plus shipping. And I sold a couple other items from that box. There wasn't like anything really great, but my son took a lot of the stuff. So he was thrilled. So it was a win for him. And this basically paid for the box, the sale. I did take an offer of $20 on it. It was new with tags, but yeah. So, and the good thing about him is he folds over and he squishes into like a ball. There's a snap. So he was really easy to fit into just a poly bag, poly mailer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
and not breakable. So easy to ship.
Yeah. So not bad for $20 plus shipping. And then I got this for $1 from Thrift to You, and it was new with tags. Didn't have the tag on it. And a lot of Florida State University, because they are based, a lot of items that are FSU because they are based in Florida. But I sold it for $20 plus shipping, so not bad for that.
Did it go back to Florida?
It didn't. It went to Georgia, so close. And then this was a sample piece of fabric that I had. It was Grafe Schumacher, which is a brand to look for. It was just a remnant sample. And by sample, I mean it literally had like the sample card. So yeah. And I missed that $2 like garage sale looking tag on it when I took the pictures, but I guess they didn't care.
Didn't matter.
I did kind of rub it out before I shipped it though. But yeah, so it had the Velcro or hook and loop, as you're supposed to say on eBay, on the sides of it because it was, originally like literally a sample that was, on a card, on a board, to show the samples in a store. So that little piece, it was only 25 by 31 inches, sold for $12.99 plus shipping. So not bad. And then I just sold this yesterday. I was so excited. So this sold for full price, which doesn't usually happen on Poshmark. I sold it for $48 plus full shipping. Nice. And I got this zipper. I got this windbreaker. I remember I got it at Goodwill in Philly. And I was at the register and it was like right there. Like somebody had put it back on the end of the rack. And I grabbed it and I think I paid like $4.99 for it. So it took a while to sell, but not a bad sale. So
yeah, that's such a cool item.
Yeah, it really is. And it's really like the perfect. I had it on Depop too. I just took it down on Depop. Didn't sell on Depop. So it sold on Poshmark.
I would have guessed it would sell on Depop too, but you never know.
I know. I wouldn't. It's not really a Poshmark item necessarily, but thank you, Jess. And we have a question for you, which was, what was your best thrifted mid-century fashion find? Let us know.
If you have any great memories, like my Vested Gentress dress or the pantyhose that I sold, love to hear all of those stories. So
yeah, definitely. And you can find us everywhere. I'm mostly Thrifty Nay. Lola is mostly Run Lola Run, except for on eBay, where we are Coldbright Asterisk Dazzle or Low 2-by. And email us again. We want your duds. So email us your dud list, your dud listing, or listings that need some help. We will help you out, and I promise we'll be kind.
And we'll give them a boost. So maybe you'll find someone, another viewer will be interested in buying them. So, we'll give you a little shout out.
And we also, if you have any ideas for our show next week for our 1K celebration, if there's anything that you want us to include or you have any suggestions, certainly let us know. And if you want to be a future guest or you have any ideas for upcoming shows or other comments or questions, please let us know. And again, next week, we are excited to be back with our 1K celebration. So
usual time on Friday.
Yes.
So thanks.
Thanks for joining us today on a Thursday. And I hope everybody has a great week. Thank you.
Bye.